While Toto Wolff is best known for being the team principal of the Mercedes F1 team, what many may not know is that he's actually part owner of the outfit as well. But could that be about to change? One prominent F1 reporter has suggested Wolff may be looking to cash in. Who is Wolff and how did he get involved in F1? Toto Wolff's journey into F1 is not the standard routine for many. The Austrian was not a former F1 driver, but instead came from a business background. He founded his own investment company when he was 26, and soon his personal fortune began to rise. But he always had a passion for racing and drove in events such as the 24 Hours at the Nürburgring. He began his own motorsport career in the Austrian Formula Ford Championship aged 20, before competing in the German and Austrian Formula Ford categories in 1993 and the 1994 seasons. Wolff then won the 24 Hours in Nürburgring in his class in 1994, before later turning his attention to GT racing in the early 2000s alongside his career as a venture capital investor. Venture into Williams. But following a dangerous crash that left him lucky to be alive, Wolff decided being inside the cockpit was not for him, and instead wanted to combine his passion for business with racing. His first step was buying a 16% share of the Williams team in 2009, which gave him a seat on the board of directors. 3 years later, he was named executive director and helped guide the team to victory in the Spanish Grand Prix, which remains the historic team's latest win. It was at this time that he was approached by Mercedes and asked to lead their Formula One team, but declined to stay with Williams. However, after some more negotiations, the Silver Arrows got their man. Wolff joined Mercedes. Wolff left his Williams role in January 2013 and took up the same role at the Silver Arrows, who had returned to the grid 3 years earlier. At the same time, Wolff secured 30% of the F1 team, meaning he was part owner of 2 members of the F1 grid. For his Williams stock, however, fearing a conflict of interest, he sold most of it, leaving him with just 5% ownership. At the end of the 2013 season, Wolff took over team principal duties from Ross Brawn and began to build a team that would go on to create a dynasty, all the while making his initial investment all the more valuable. But the changes have gone further than what's on track, with the team's staff headcount having doubled from 650 people in 2013 to around 1,300 in 2022. An annual turnover having more than doubled from just under $200 million per year in 2013 to around $450 million in 2022. With increased focus on the questionable nature of a team principal being part owner of 2 separate teams, Wolff sold 2/3 of Williams shares in 2014 before completing the sale in 2016, although financial issues from the buyer meant Wolff kept hold of them until 2020. Wolff was not done there though. He acquired a 4.95% stake in Aston Martin Lagonda in 2020, which reportedly cost him £37 million. Add all this together and it's clear to see how Wolff became a billionaire earlier this year. Other business ventures. You may think being a team principal would take up all of Wolff's time, but he actually has fingers in many pies. The 2 investment firms which he set up in 1998 and 2004 respectively, named March 15 and March 16, continue to operate and focus on strategic investment and ventures in medium-sized and listed industrial companies. Their most notable acquisition was a 49% purchase of HWA AG, which manufactures parts for Mercedes in their AMG Performance division and ran the Mercedes DTM team. Wolff is also a manager of drivers as well, and is co-owner of a sports management company with 2-time Formula One world champion Mika Hakkinen, which sees him represent clients such as Valtteri Bottas and former DTM champion Bruno Spengler. He was also director and CEO of the Mercedes Formula E team before their team was taken over by McLaren. Now, given these investments, it came as no surprise in April 2023 when Wolff was listed on Business Magazine Forbes' list of sports billionaires for the first time, having crossed the reported $1 billion threshold of his reported total net worth. But it's Mercedes F1 team where he's long had his eyes set on, and having seen his share increase to 1/3 in December 2020, Wolff is now in possession of a very valuable asset. F1 on the rise. Now, Formula One teams have not always been such guaranteed money makers though. Ross Brawn buying his team from Honda for £1 is the most obvious example of how volatile valuations have been in the sport, but since Liberty Media has taken over, the teams have consolidated their wealth. The introduction of a cost cap, initially set at $140 million, meant the development arms race that ran many teams into the ground was stopped, but it's the work Liberty Media have done away from the teams that have made it such a lucrative business. Boosted interest from all corners of the globe, and particularly in America, saw Liberty take in $2.6 billion in 2022, an increase of 20% from the previous year, and the team's values have reflected that too. Michael Andretti came close to buying Sauber in 2021, but had to walk away when the asking price became too much. Audi eventually picked up the tab at a cost of $450 million. Wolff contemplating sale. The idea of Wolff leaving Mercedes is not new. In 2020, there were strong rumours he may step away before a resurgent Red Bull convinced him to stay, but even if he were to leave the team, up until now there'd be no talk of him selling his share. That rumour was started by Sky Sports' Craig Slater, who suggested sources had told him Wolff may be considering taking the money. Slater said, "One or two well-placed insiders have told me that maybe some ownership within Formula One have looked at the value of their team has increased and have asked the question, has the sport peaked? Might this be not a bad time to kind of sell out? If you're talking about Williams being sold for about £140 million and now being worth towards maybe even £1 billion, never mind dollars nowadays." Slater also raised the point of Andretti trying to get in and suggested that Wolff's initial $50 million investment is now worth many times that. He said, "It's interesting that Andretti have tried to get in, maybe would be put off by the price tag of buying a team. Are they good value to buy right now an F1 team? Why are the big sovereign wealth funds, and I suppose people are talking about the rumours of Aramco buying Aston Martin from Lawrence Stroll and paying top dollar for that? If you were Dorilton Capital, owners of Williams, or Toto Wolff or Lawrence Stroll, who bought it via liquidation, yes, he paid off a lot of the creditors, but you've maybe paid a couple of $100 million. Or I think Toto paid €50 million for his stake. It's now worth $3 billion or whatever. Does that have its own incentive to sell, when in a few years you made such a big gain? Which is why I question, it must be quite tempting for some of these owners to maybe think about offloading it in the present climate, which is certainly benign compared to where it was a few years ago. Will Wolff sell? The answer to whether Wolff will sell or not is something only he knows. But if we go off previous comments, it would suggest he plans to stick around for a little while yet. Speaking in August, Wolff said Mercedes was his company and that he planned to keep doing it for a long time. He said, "If I'm feeling that I'm not the best person anymore for the job, I'm going to try to find someone else. And I won't have any doubt or being in two minds with that. Because if you're in two minds, that means you've taken the decision already." That changed only in the last few years, when working in Formula One developed from a project mindset, like a trainer or a manager in football, to "this is my company. I'm an equal shareholder to Mercedes and team partner Ineos, and this is what I'm going to do for a long time." Thanks for watching today's video, and let us know in the comments if you think it's just a rumour of whether Toto Wolff may be thinking about selling. In the meantime, be sure to like the video and click subscribe so you never miss a release here on the DRS Straight.